All right, welcome in everybody to Patriots Postgame Live after New England drops a tough one on Saturday Night Football, of all things, to the Indianapolis-Colts. And if you watched any of the lead up to the game, Brandon Daniels and I did a pregame show of sorts. It was on Thursday, but preview for Patriots-Colts on Saturday. And I was treating this game, I think, more seriously than a lot of other people were. The Colts are a really, really good football team. And I considered this to be one of the biggest tests Mac Jones was going to face, really. I mean, and I compared it to the Patriots test they're going to face and Mac Jones's test they're going to face, right? The Patriots, going into Buffalo in that windstorm, may have been a bigger test for the Patriots, but Mac Jones didn't have to do a lot. In Indianapolis, it was a lot was put on the shoulders of Mac Jones in this game, and the Patriots come up short. Now, it's not entirely Mac Jones's fault. We'll certainly get into the run defense, among other things, that were responsible for the Patriots losing this game. But in the first half, it was ugly. You have to feel good about the way they were able to climb back into it. That's certainly a positive to take from the game. But Mac Jones was not good in the first half. It was the worst football we've seen him play as a Patriot. I don't think it's close. I think some people have tried to poke holes in his performance over the last few weeks here and say he was iffy or shaky, in certain spots. I know the Bills game people, want to say that the Patriots didn't trust him because they only let him throw 3 times. I don't think you can critique him on that performance. I mean, it's an incomplete, if anything. So I'm not going to say that game for Mac Jones was bad. It was nothing. He wasn't asked to do anything. And weeks in the past, people have been critical of his performance too. I think even against the Titans, people were critical of him, even though his stat line was great. I didn't have a problem with him in that Titans game. He missed Hunter Henry on a deep one, but I think Mac Jones overall, you still give him a passing grade for that. I think it's just a matter of people wanting to find something to complain about with Mac Jones. Tonight gave people that, honestly. If you wanted to rip into Mac Jones, the first half tonight gave you that. Second half, he bounced back. Second half, Mac Jones looked a lot better. I mean, the drive he led, the pass from N'Keal Harry downfield, the pass to Hunter Henry in the end zone, that was good stuff. That was pretty good for Mac Jones. He woke up a little bit, but when you dig yourself a 20-0 hole, that's not going to cut it. I see Mike in the chat already. I'm gonna be honest. Regardless of how the game went, he's a rookie, and yeah, he had a bad first half. But come out in the fourth quarter and do everything he did, I'm not even upset. I understand that to an extent, Mike. I honestly think that bigger picture, you're probably right. Bigger picture, if we're talking about Mac Jones as a whole, for everything he's done this rookie season, yes, you absolutely take it. How can you be upset at anything Mac Jones has done this season? And I 100% agree with you from a big picture standpoint. From a microscopic standpoint, this game, I think it's fair to be critical of him, and people are going to be critical of him, and I'm not going to have a problem with it. If people were going to do it after the Titans game or after other, pick your whatever game that you want to poke holes in Mac Jones, if the Patriots won the Bills game, I would have pushed back on that. I would have said that there's no reason to be critical of Mac Jones in this situation. Tonight there is. Tonight there honestly is, and I'm going to give people the freedom to do that. I think that, yes, this doesn't mean that the Patriots don't have a good rookie quarterback on their hands and Mac Jones isn't going to continue to grow and be better and all this stuff. None of this means any of that. But it does mean that Mac Jones had a bad night and he's going to get some heat for it. He's going to catch some heat for it, honestly. The throw got picked off by Darius Leonard. You can't make that mistake. If he doesn't make that mistake, it is a totally different game. If he doesn't make that mistake and the Patriots settle for a field goal there, right? If they don't even get into the end zone, I know that a bunch of different things could have played out differently, but at the end of that game, instead of it being 20-17, it's 20-20, and you're tied up, and you play your defense differently, and you don't let Jonathan Taylor run 40 yards to the house or whatever it ended up being. So that's number one on the list. You cannot have a red zone turnover. Any time that a game plays out like this and you have a red zone turnover, you deserve to catch a lot of the blame for the loss. Mac Jones is it's the same thing with when Damian Harris fumbled away. It's a little bit different because the spot was, Mac Jones did it in the first half, Harris did it in the second half. So Harris was bigger, but it's roughly the same principle as when Damian Harris fumbled against the Dolphins. You can't turn it over in the red zone especially when a game is going to be as close as this one was. So that's on Mac Jones. Like that, 100% on Mac Jones. He just didn't see Darius Leonard across the middle, and Darius Leonard made a great play on the ball. Darius Leonard is a great player. So, yeah, if you want to give Darius Leonard credit, sure, give him all the credit in the world for making that play. But Mac Jones needs to be better than that if the Patriots are going to be what a lot of people are hoping they're going to be, which is a real Super Bowl contender. Like this week, and shout out to Kilimos on the site, one of our Patriots writers. He was saying that Patriots Buccaneers talking about the Super Bowl prospects of it. Everybody's talking about the Super Bowl prospects of it. The Patriots were, I think, second in the AFC in Super Bowl odds behind the Kansas City Chiefs. So, like, if you're going to be the big dog on the block, if you're going to be the number one seed, then, you open yourself up to some criticism, and you have to play at that level, and you're going to be expected to play at the level, and you're going to be held to that level. So when he isn't able to make those types of plays and makes those mistakes, he's going to get called out for it. And he's going to get called out in the next few days. I'm not going to do much of it here. I mean, I've explained it's a bad throw. He played better in the second half. To me, that's it. We'll see what Mac Jones is doing going forward. I'm not making any grand judgments on who Mac Jones is based on this game. It's one of the best, if not the best, defenses he's played in his career. It is from top to bottom. That Colts defense, I mean, especially up front, that defense is ridiculous. And honestly, usually coming out of the bye week, we give teams a little bit of a boost, right? That, okay, you're coming off the bye week, you're fresh, you had 2 weeks to prepare for the team you're facing, you should be ready to go, right? In this case, number one, the Colts were on a bye week too, so that advantage was kind of squashed from that point. But number two, and more prudent to this point, is that Mac Jones was kind of coming off like 2 bye weeks in a sense. He barely threw against the Bills, and obviously the no game last week. So he hasn't really been asked to play much quarterback in over 2 weeks. So coming into this game, tasking him with this comeback and this Colts defense that's going to be ready for you to run the ball, like, that's a tough ask. I understand that from Mac Jones' perspective. And, yes, I'm not going to give him a total break on it, but you can acknowledge that. You can say that's a bit of an awkward position for Mac Jones to be in. Maybe that affected him tonight. It certainly looked like he was a little bit rusty in the first half, right? And then second half, he dusts himself off, and he begins to have the comeback, comes up short. But that could have played a factor in this whole thing as well. So, look, I mean, anytime you throw 2 interceptions in a game, I'm not going to say you played well. I'm not going to say it's not your fault. Mac Jones played a huge role in the Patriots' downfall. The Okereke pick, that was just a great play by Okereke, I thought. Mac Jones dumps it off to the flat, and it's usually a safe play, usually a simple play. Okereke was on it, but it looked like Mac Jones could have still got it there. And, full extension, diving interception. Like, I won't give Mac Jones, I won't kill Mac Jones for that. I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there because it was a great play by the linebacker, but, he's not totally absolved from blame. He still threw it into danger, and he got burnt. There were a couple of other plays where you could argue that he got bailed out. He threw a lot of jump balls up there. That, cross body throw to Hunter Henry, that could have been a pick. Like, Mac Jones was very, very shaky today. It wasn't just the 2 interceptions. The ball he threw up to Nelson Aguilar down the sideline when Kenny Moore knocked it out. Like, Kenny Moore easily could have made a play on that ball and picked it off. Like, there were it's just a number of times in this game. Remember the throw to Jonnu Smith over the middle where his hand tipped it. That ball could have been picked. So it wasn't just the 2 interceptions. If you were to tell me, well, Mac Jones threw 2 picks, but he was lights out the rest of the night, then maybe we could have a conversation. But he wasn't. He kind of got bailed out at certain times, made some nice throws, but Mac Jones just wasn't good today. And he was a reason why the Patriots lost. Was he the biggest reason? It's a toss-up. I'm not going to, I don't want to pick between the 2 worst things about this game, which we'll get into the other one in a bit, but Mac Jones leading things off, like, just wasn't good enough tonight. I'm sorry. Like, I know that, it was almost pretty special. It felt like the comeback was mounting. It felt like they were going to be able to do something, and then it falls apart at the end because of the other worst thing about this game. But Mac Jones not totally absolved of blame in this loss. Corey saying Colts are going all the way this year. We'll have another Super Bowl in Indy. I'm not going to acknowledge the fact that Super Bowl's misspelled, but the Colts are a good football team. And I mentioned this coming into this game. Like, I don't know if people failed to realize this, but the Colts are really good. Like, the Colts are no joke. They are well coached, great running game, great defense, a lot like the Patriots. The teams kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. And there was a 2-game difference coming into the game between the two teams. Hey, now there's a 1-game difference. So in the standings. So these two teams are very, very similar, and both are very structurally sound. The Patriots weren't so structurally sound tonight, which we'll get into. But overall, like, you got to give the Colts their credit. And I don't think people respected the Colts enough coming into this game, especially because, Carson Wentz, for how much he gets clowned and he makes some mistakes and it isn't pretty sometimes, but he's actually had a quietly kind of nice season. It hasn't been terrible from Carson Wentz, and he's in a perfect situation for himself. But the Colts are a serious threat in the AFC. I don't know if people have failed to recognize this, but I think they proved it tonight on national TV. So don't sleep on the Colts, especially if this is a potential playoff matchup, because it easily could be. You could be playing the Colts in the wild card round 1, and hey, maybe that makes it better that you lost tonight because you know how hard it is to beat a team twice, and you'll be in Foxborough for that one. So, hey, Mac Jones, at the end of the day, it's his first loss on the road too. So, the guy went 6-0 on the road. I'm not expecting him to go 7-0 on the road, and it certainly he's allowed to have some bad games, but he's going to take some criticism when he does. That's what happens to everybody. Mike saying even Patrick Mahomes has made mistakes. I don't feel people should be hard on him. But this is the thing. Like, when Patrick Mahomes makes mistakes, people get on Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is how the NFL works. This is how sports work. When you're bad, we talk about how you're bad. When Patrick Mahomes is bad, when LeBron James is bad, when Michael Jordan was bad, when whoever. I don't care if they're the best athlete in the world. When you're bad, we talk about it. When Tom Brady was bad, people talked about the fact that Tom Brady was bad that night. So, yes, even Patrick Mahomes made some mistakes. Obviously, everybody in every sport has made mistakes. When they do, we talk about it. When they do, they deserve some blame for their team's loss. That's how things go. You make mistakes, you lose. You don't make mistakes, you win. We talk about it the next day. We talk about it, an hour after the game. So I get what you're saying, Mike. I understand why you want to defend Mac Jones. He made some good plays tonight. He did some good things. But he was far from perfect, and he didn't just make a couple of mistakes. It wasn't just the picks. It was all the other balls that he threw into danger and got away with. And the Patriots were down 20-0 for a reason. I mean, what was it, 99 straight games? Was that it, 99 straight games with a point in the first half or something along those lines? Or what was it, something like that? I can't imagine it was 99 straight. I saw it flash up, 99 straight quarters maybe? What was it? Whatever the stat they threw up there in the first half was. Like, the fact that they got shut out in the first half, the quarterback takes some blame in that. The rest of your comment, I don't feel you should be hard on him. He played lights out almost all year. He made a few mistakes, but what rookie doesn't? So we lost. Again, Mike, just because you don't get a pass in the NFL. Nobody gets a pass in the NFL for playing bad. It's just not how it works. We have the best head coach of all time. We will be back next weekend. Everything will be all right. I'm not saying everything won't be all right. I'm not here saying the season's over. I'm absolutely not saying that. I just said that this could be a playoff matchup. You could be playing the Colts in the wild card round. Like, the Patriots are still in a very good position. As long as they win next week, they should still win the division, which coming into the year seemed like a pipe dream. Okay? It seemed like it was going to be a huge challenge. Next week is all you need to do in order to win that. So I'm not saying the season's over. I'm not saying they won't be all right. All I'm saying is that Mac Jones played bad tonight. That's okay. It's okay in the bigger picture. In the smaller picture, we need to talk about the fact that he was bad. Like, that's okay. The grand judgments will come later. Again, I am not making any on Mac Jones based off tonight. I still think he's a good player. He wasn't tonight. Mike saying, I'll accept that he threw a couple of bad passes. More than a couple. Like I just said, it was up near 5 or 6. And Itzkier saying, I'm not impressed with the Colts still. I'm surprised to hear you say that, Itzkier. Like, don't get me wrong. They have a little bit of chokiness in them. Like, the Colts definitely have a little bit of, like they mentioned all the double-digit losses that they've, suffered this season, or the double-digit leads they've blown. rather, is what I meant to say, in later in games, and they almost blew one tonight. Like, they have a little bit of a choke factor. Frank Reich, a little bit too aggressive sometimes for my taste. Like, do you need to go for every 4th and 1? Brandon Staley, Frank Reich, it gets a little bit too much, and it's going to eventually cost you and bite you down the road, especially if you keep playing like that. So there are things to critique the Colts about for sure. Their quarterback isn't perfect, but when you looked at it coming into today, Mac Jones and Carson Wentz were back-to-back and pretty much in a lot of major stat categories when you rank them out. So they were both like 12th, 13th in the league when we ranked out quarterbacks. So they're both at around the same level. And look, Mac Jones is a rookie and Carson Wentz is a veteran. So that's a feather in Mac Jones's cap overall. Like, he's going to get better than that, we assume. But look, I think that, there's reasons to not like the Colts. There's a lot of reasons to still really like them. Like, for as much as I just talked about Frank Reich being a little too aggressive, he is an offensive mastermind. Like, the play he drew up for Nyheim Hines to score on that play, that trick play, like, he's a genius. He's a big reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Okay, like, Frank Reich is an incredible head coach, top of the league for sure. Like, he's got to be top 10 in the NFL, if not top 5. I don't want to rank everybody out in my head right now, but Frank Reich's good. Their defense is good. Like that, they have playmakers on that side of the ball between Buckner and Darius Leonard. So those guys are ridiculous. So you got to give them credit. Like, I don't know what you mean by impressed. Like, they impressed me tonight, especially with their defensive performance in the first half. That was incredible. So I can't agree with you there, Itzgear. Mike saying, I feel like you're being too hard on him. What have I said specifically that's too hard? I mean, I need you to tell me, because I feel like I'm just saying he played bad and that's what happened. Jacob saying, embarrassing. I'm not mad, just disappointed. We didn't deserve the win after that horrendous first half. On to Buffalo. And I heard some people make that point, the Patriots didn't deserve to win tonight. Look, the first half was ugly. Like, when the first half was happening, I was ready to hop on here and rip into the whole team and say, like, this how terrible this performance was. It was gross in the first half. It looked like it was going to be a train wreck. And yeah, like they came back in the second half. They made it close and they made it exciting. So, it's hard on them. You give them a little bit of credit there. But overall, like, about as far as that first half is concerned, like, it couldn't have gone worse. I mean, the blocked punt, you get, the trick play ran all over you with the Nyheim Hines play. The interception from Mac Jones in the red zone. Like, you allow that long field goal drive from the Colts that chewed up 7-8 minutes in the second quarter. So that's no good. Let me see. I have it up right here. How long did that drive take? 9 minutes, 14 play, 8-minute, 57-second drive from the Colts in the second quarter. Like, throw that in there. It was gross. And the second half, they flipped it. Bill Belichick makes his adjustments. That's how you do it in these games. But yeah, the second half wasn't good. And I'll just bring it up now because we're talking about Bill Belichick. I don't know if anyone in the chat's going to bring it up, but the decision to kick the field goal there in the end of the third quarter, does that, or middle of the fourth quarter, I should say, is that something you second guess Bill Belichick for? Is that something you say you should have gone for it? Because I heard a lot of people saying that at the time, and I don't know if you would agree with that, Jacob. But look, if they go for 6 there and they get it, then they're ahead at the game. I mean, we questioned Mac Jones throwing the pick, which obviously cost them at least 3 points and put them in a rough spot at the end. How about Bill Belichick not going for it? Not as big as Mac Jones throwing the pick. Mac Jones giving away points with that one. Bill Belichick just trying to take what the Colts are giving him on the scoreboard. But another big one. I'll be honest, I don't blame Bill Belichick as much as I blame Mike Onwenu for making that decision harder on him and getting that false start penalty. Because that was 3rd and 1 from the goal line, and Onwenu gets the false start and it goes to 3rd and 6. And now it's harder to say, all right, 4th and 6, like, we're going to line up, we're going to go for it. Like, that gets a lot tougher. So to me, you put a lot of the blame on Onwenu for that mistake they made. And they made mistakes all night. They were getting way too penalized. They shot themselves in the foot a number of times. The delay of games, the false starts. I mean, Jonnu Smith getting fooled on that defensive shift to get the false start called on him. They were getting clowned by the Colts at certain times. Like, the Colts were just toying with them. getting way too many penalties, way too many. And that's something that's going to go, I think might go overlooked in this game just because so many other things happened. Again, like they started that comeback, so many other decisions to talk about. But the penalties in this one were completely unacceptable. Total in this game, Colts, 2 penalties for 13 yards. 2 penalties for 13 yards. Patriots, 8 for 50. 8 penalties for 50 yards. Not going to fly. Not against a team as well coached as the Colts. And that's just, I don't know who you want to blame that on. I stop short of blaming that on Bill Belichick. Like, the players just need to be smarter in that case. Like, you can't do that. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they took their eye off the ball, if they started thinking too highly of themselves, if they forgot that, if they just let themselves lose focus because they thought they were the best team in the NFL. They thought they were, they thought they were riding high after, being on that winning streak. But they lost focus with all these penalties tonight. And it was another thing that really hurt them in this game. So the penalties were huge. Bill Belichick's decision not to go for it. I want to know if you guys want to question it. For me, I can't. I honestly can't look at that decision and say Bill Belichick did the wrong thing. I think that he still put them in with a chance to win the game at the end. I blame him Wendy more so for giving up 5 yards at the goal line. You can't do that either. Jacob saying 99 straight games, I'm sure. Because I don't know, Jacob, because they put up another graphic later that the last time they were shut out through 3 quarters was Buffalo in 2016, which was the Jacoby Brissett game. And that couldn't have been 99 games ago. So they must have been wrong about that because, they got shut out by the Bills totally in that game. They lost, 16-0, whatever it was. So maybe they were wrong on that graphic, but it wasn't, it's definitely not 99 straight games because I'm trying to think just off the top of my head. Since 2016, that was week 4. So you had 12 games the rest of that season. You had, 16 times 4. So that's about 64 over the next one. So that's about, you're talking about 76 games. So it could have only been, I think, about 76 plus what you had this season, which was 1389. So maybe I'm missing some numbers there. Maybe it was close to 99, but I know it was that Buffalo game. But I think it works out closer to 89 in my head. So maybe they got a number off there. I don't know. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm missing something. Maybe they were including playoffs. That could be it. If they're including the playoffs, then I guess it would get them to 99. So it's kind of crazy to think that it's been 99 NFL games since Jacoby Brissett started that game in Buffalo. It feels like with how few games are in an NFL season, that's almost impossible to fathom. But I suppose it must have been 99, and they just gave the date for the third quarter. But yeah, wow, that is that is something. Because I was at first when I saw the thing about Jacoby Brissett, the first thing I thought was, oh, they must have got that first stat wrong because there's no way it's been 99 games since 2016. But I guess if you count the playoffs, then it must have been. So, and Mike's saying, I'd agree, made some mistakes and threw some bad passes, 99 straight games where we didn't score in the first half. Yeah, I guess that. And then you guys are all saying in the chat, I see a couple of the messages about, I think it was 99 straight without a score in the first half. Yeah, I guess, quick math teaches us that. I guess I forgot to just add playoff games in there. And, it's one of those things where you're like, what, 2016 was 5 years ago. Like, it's as far now from 2016 as it is from 2016 to 2011, like all this stuff. This just messes with your head because of, the perception we have of time and everything like that. But yeah, it's, wow, 99 games ago was that Jacoby Brissett thing. Could have got to 100. But one thing about that, like, streak is, like, we never even heard of it before tonight. So, like, give the researcher a pat on the back that found that stat and, like, great job, buddy. But it's not like this was a streak that the Patriots were, like, desperately trying to continue and, it was something we were holding as a badge of honor, like 99 straight games. We can't wait to get to 100. Like, that's going to be like it was a streak nobody knew about or cared about before tonight. So I don't think it's worth us talking about, like, oh, we were so close to 100, like, ripping the offense for not getting there. Like, you care more about losing the game than you do this dumb streak that we knew nothing about. I would even give credence to if it was like a bigger streak, like if it was some of these other streaks we've seen in the NFL recently. I know that the Colts have their turnover streak, the Steelers have their sack streak. If it was something like that, then I don't know if the Steelers still have their sack streak, but if it was something like that, I'd care a little bit more, I guess, just because it's more notable and something you're talking about while it's happening. This wasn't that impressive. Mike saying, don't get me wrong, I agree with everything you're saying. You're right, and saying I take back what I said about being too hard on him critically. Players ultimately can make them better. And I appreciate you saying that, Mike. I think I understand what you're saying. And look, I understand the inclination to defend Mac Jones. Like I said, I'm not saying Mac Jones is a bad football player and Brian Hoyer should be starting. Full disclosure, I texted one of my friends that as a joke. I didn't mean it genuinely. But, I'm not saying that Mac Jones shouldn't be an NFL quarterback, that, this proves the Patriots won't be a contender and Mac Jones isn't who we thought he was and all that stuff. Like, Mac Jones shouldn't be rookie of the year, whatever. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm not remotely saying any of that. I'm just saying Mac Jones had a bad night, and that's what happened on the football field tonight. And that's all we need to talk about right now. And we'll talk about his whole season and the bigger picture at the end of the year. But, right after the game, it's just about how he performed tonight, and it wasn't that good. Corey saying JT is like the Reggie Miller of the NFL. Jonathan Taylor? I don't know quite what you mean by that. I don't know if you mean like Reggie Miller is known for a lot of things, being a showman. Some people think they know him for being a flopper a little bit. So I don't quite get what you mean about the Reggie Miller stuff, the Reggie Miller comparison to Jonathan Taylor. I'd love if you elaborated on that, because you're confusing me a little bit with that one. But yeah, I don't know if you're just saying he's going to be a great player that never wins anything. I mean, both are from Indianapolis, right? Both Reggie played for the Pacers, Jonathan Taylor played for the Colts. If you want to say they're both incredible players that played for ultimately mediocre teams and rose their level, like, I don't know. You're going to need to elaborate on that one for me. That's the best I can come up with. Mike saying penalties killed us tonight, and yeah, they did. And you got them in some bad spots. You honestly did. And the unwinding one was just one of them. I mean, it backed them up way too much on a number of drives and killed their momentum in a lot of spots. Corey saying the Pats using the 2 timeouts before the 2-minute warning wasn't smart. I don't think it changed the game too much. I mean, honestly, they wanted to. Either way, the Colts were running the ball in that situation, and they were draining another 40 seconds off the clock with each play. So I don't know that it would have played out that much differently had they not done it. I mean, they needed to get the ball back. Either way, the Colts were going to drain that time off the clock either way. So honestly, I didn't have a problem with it. Ultimately, I thought they played it right. I thought they played the clock perfectly with the situation they had it. They were dealt, I should say, because you call those timeouts, you get the ball back with 4 minutes, and my whole thinking there, and my mindset whenever an NFL team is in that situation, is you have to score before the 2-minute warning. If you don't have all 3 timeouts and you're down 2 scores, you absolutely, I don't care what it is, need to score before the 2-minute warning, because you need the clock to stop at the 2-minute mark when the other team has the ball. You need to use that as a bonus timeout. If you're running short of 3 timeouts, absolutely need that, especially if you only have 1. Like, that is a necessity. So I thought Bill Belichick played it perfectly. They get in the end zone considerably over 2 minutes. They get the 2 stoppages with the 2-minute warning. They ultimately don't need it because Jonathan Taylor runs all over them. But they would have gotten the 2 stoppages with the 2-minute warning and the timeout, and Jonathan Taylor kills them anyway. So that comes down more to the run defense to me than anything. I'm not going to blame Bill Belichick for how he managed that clock. I still think that they ended up in a pretty good spot, all things considered. They would have had the ball back down 3 with about 1:20, 1:15 to go if they were able to get that stop on Taylor. Ultimately, they just couldn't. And look, we haven't talked about it all night. I've been reading the chat. We need to talk about the running defense and what happened against the Colts tonight with Jonathan Taylor and everybody, because Colts ran for 226 and a touchdown on you, and that just can't happen, obviously. I mean, the Colts were averaging well over about 5.5 yards per carry tonight. That's just that, and that includes Wentz's kneel downs at the end. Like, come on, man. And Jonathan Taylor, before his 67-yarder, was still killing you. I mean, there was that whole thing about Bill Belichick and holding 100-yard rushers or 1,000-yard rushers to limited success in the games, right? That he had held them to 70-something yards per game. Only 4 guys had over 100 yards in the game. before Jonathan Taylor's 67-yard run, he was already over 100. So the 67-yarder was the home run, and, it makes the stats look even better and even more godly. And, hey, Jonathan Taylor, like, Brady better watch out because Jonathan Taylor's running up on his MVP campaign. But Jonathan Taylor was running all over the Patriots before that happened. So, the Colts are a great running team. They have Quentin Nelson and Jonathan Taylor. Like, you could put 4 other offensive linemen. It almost doesn't matter. If you run Jonathan Taylor behind Quentin Nelson, you're guaranteed like 4 yards every time. So that's why the Colts are a great running team. But, Ryan Kelly was out, the Colts starting center. It was a great player, and you thought that would help the Patriots work to their advantage. Patriots already a good running defense. I think tonight just proved that the Colts are a better running team than the Patriots are in running defense. Like, the Colts are the first or second best running team in the league. It's them and the Titans. It's one of those teams in the AFC South. And Jonathan Taylor proved tonight that he is right now the best healthy running back on the planet, and it's not close. Until Derrick Henry comes back, Jonathan Taylor is king, and he's going to deserve the rushing title this year because he's been absolutely ridiculous. As far as the rest of the team, I mean, that Hines play into the end zone when Hines got his touchdown, that didn't even count as a rush. So Carson Wentz tonight didn't have to do anything. Carson Wentz basically was what Mac Jones was in the Buffalo game. He threw 12 passes. Again, one of them was that flip play to Nyheim Hines. Like, I'm not giving Carson Wentz credit for that. It was 5 for 12, 57 yards, a touchdown and a pick. And again, I'm not giving him credit for the touchdown. I give Hines credit for that. Sure, I give Frank Reich credit for that. Carson Wentz doesn't deserve credit for that play. So Carson Wentz was terrible tonight. And I had thought coming into the game that Bill Belichick, I mean, what does Bill Belichick do? What have we heard that Bill Belichick does throughout his entire career whenever he's facing a team, whether it be the Chiefs or the, whatever great offenses he faces off against, right? Bill Belichick takes away your best weapon. He takes away Travis Kelce, or he takes away Tony Gonzalez, or he takes whatever. Whatever you do best, Bill Belichick will take it away. He couldn't take away Jonathan Taylor tonight. Like, I fully believe that the Patriots must have been thinking, and the Patriots game plan must have been, we're not going to let Jonathan Taylor beat us. When you're facing the Indianapolis Colts, what else would be your game plan other than we're not going to let Jonathan Taylor beat us? And to steal a line from Corey, Corey's comparing Reggie Miller to Jonathan Taylor, and Ahmad Rashad said this about Reggie Miller. Jonathan Taylor already beat you by saying, hi, how are you doing today? Whatever. Ran into the building. You walk into the building, Jonathan Taylor just ran all over you because he has Quentin Nelson to run behind, and he's immensely talented himself. So I would have thought, and I thought came into this game, I fully believe Bill Belichick was going to make Carson Wentz beat him, and that just didn't happen. Carson Wentz had 2 passes tonight completed over 10 yards. Just 2. It was a 23-yarder to Zach Pascal and a 19-yarder to T.Y. Hilton. And the 23-yarder was a pretty good throw. They said it was triple coverage on the broadcast. That wasn't triple coverage. There were 3 guys vaguely in the area, but it was zone coverage, and Wentz found the hole. So, yeah, it wasn't triple coverage by any means. But the Hilton play was, it was a blown coverage. It was an all-out blitz that Jalen Mills just got caught up and totally blew the coverage, and T.Y. Hilton had no one within 5 yards of him, and it was a drag route, and Hilton turned it upfield and got 19 yards out of it. But that wasn't a 19-yard throw by Wentz. Wentz had to make one throw tonight. You forced Carson Wentz to make one throw tonight to Zach Pascal, and that was it. That was all he had to do to win the game. I really am surprised by that. I am shocked by that. I'm floored that that's all Carson Wentz had to do tonight to win the game. I really am. I can't believe it. It's Gear saying, let me say it better. Certain parts of the Colts team didn't impress me, like the D-line, but a good amount of the game was the Patriots did a lot of hurting themselves. I'm still surprised to hear you say that because the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson got blown up a couple of times behind the line of scrimmage. The Colts had a lot of run stuffs. I don't know. I want to see the stat sheet real quick. to see 4 tackles for a loss from the Colts tonight. They look 4 of those run plays behind the line of scrimmage. So their defensive line, like, it didn't result in a lot of sacks, and the Patriots dropped back a lot. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, it's gear, because they didn't force Mac Jones or they didn't put a lot of pressure on Jones tonight, especially considering he threw 46 passes. But they're against the run, they were amazing, great. So I don't have any problem with that. Jacob saying they were probably wrong then. I didn't think much of it. I think you were talking about the 99-yard thing. No, I guess they were right. And saying you're saying I'm sick of Sendejo. He always gets away with so many of those hits. Boston Sports Report saying we will bounce back next week 16 versus the Bills at home. Maybe we'll talk about that Bills game in a little bit. First half they played like shit. Yeah, they and we already talked about that, so skip over that. Mike saying, hey man, at the end of the day, we didn't make the playoffs last year. Our rookie QB will get us there. Rex Ryan said at the beginning of the season, we wouldn't even make it. And yeah, a lot of people said they wouldn't make it. Hey, even Vegas, Vegas is the most unbiased of them all. Vegas had them just on the outside looking in. So as long as they make it this year, which they absolutely should, the game against the Jaguars should be a gimme and a layup, and that should get you in at the very least. But absolutely, I mean, the Patriots season as a whole has been stellar to this point. It's Gear saying it sucks because we saw them use Jonnu early, but those flags killed us. And yeah, Jonnu, they tried to get him involved a lot. That screen past him near the red zone looked like it was going to be effective. Like, Jonnu looked a little bit better today, I thought, overall. Like, if you want a token thought on Jonnu Smith, I thought he looked pretty athletic. He had that, he had some penalties, or he had at least the one penalty, which was dumb. And then Jacoby Myers got the holding penalty on his play that called that screenplay back. And then I think there was another screenplay they ran to Jonnu Smith. And I don't know if this is what you're referring to, it's here, but there was another screenplay to Jonnu Smith where they had ineligible men downfield because they were blocking too early. So it was just too many plays that really cost and too many stupid ones. And yeah, Boston Sports Report saying the 8 for 50 that we brought up before. It's Gear. I think I already read that, saying that certain parts of the D-line didn't impress. It might be a little far back in the comments now. How do you feel about Duggar and Pittman? Look, I think that in that moment, Duggar was embarrassed, and I think he was a little annoyed. And I think that Pittman was a little bit aggressive on that play too. But it boiled over for Duggar, like a whole night of frustration. You're getting waxed on national television, and Duggar had enough. And Pittman got in his face, and Duggar was pissed, and he lost his cool for a second. So I think that I don't know if Duggar's going to get suspended for that. I doubt it. I think he'll get fined probably at the end of the day, and he got ejected, so that'll be his pseudo suspension. But yeah, I mean, you can't do that in that game. I don't think him being in there would have changed much. Would he have stopped Jonathan Taylor's 67-yard run at the end of the game? I don't know. I don't think so off the top of my head, but it's just it didn't surprise me. I'll tell you that much. It really didn't surprise me. I saw it happen, and I said, "Yep, like that's just frustration. That's just you feeling like you're getting embarrassed and letting it out on the football field." And that's what Duggar did. And you can't do that. You're gonna get tossed. So Mike saying, so big on Mac because you're a Bama fan and watched him destroy everybody last year in Bama. Jonathan, I don't know if you mean Jonathan Taylor, get your ass out of here, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor was ridiculous tonight. But Mac Jones, yeah, better QB prospect than we ever could have imagined. Probably going to be offensive rookie of the year. It's just about where he goes from here. And if you want to be a great NFL quarterback, you got to clean up those mistakes in the bigger picture. It's not going to be an every game thing. I mean, like you said before, Mike, Patrick Mahomes has games where he throws 2 picks. Brady has games where he's threw 2 picks. And they said it on the broadcast, and I think they were right. Like, the positive thing to take out of that is that Mac Jones bounced back. And he came out, terrible first half, but it didn't go from bad to worse. He came out and she showed some fight. And that's the most you can ask for a quarterback having a bad game. That you show signs of life, that you pull your team back into it. And he did that. So he deserves a little bit of credit for that. And it should be something you feel a little good about, just a little bit in the loss. And Jonathan, you were saying that the commenter, Jonathan, I see, talking about Looks like a Colts fan in the chat. Saying, been waiting for this day since 2009. And then it's on to Buffalo for you guys. So talking a little stuff in the chat there. Hey, that's what happens sometimes on these streams. We got the people coming in. I remember one of the last times it happened was the Cowboys, the game. So hey, if Colts fans want to celebrate their first win against the Patriots since in a dozen years, that's their right to do so. And saying Ryan Kelly lost to their unborn baby. That's tough, Anthony. I didn't realize that, but that's awful news about Ryan Kelly. It's Gear saying, do you think the Patriots should be giving Harry more of those jump balls? I'll tell you what, and I don't usually let myself get too excited about this type of stuff, but when I saw that pass to N'Keal Harry, and I'm sure most of you was the same feeling, like when I saw N'Keal Harry catch that ball at near the goal line, I jumped out of my chair and I was like, oh my goodness, that's the first round pick. That's the guy I was excited. I was like, oh my gosh, N'Keal Harry finally did what we've been waiting for years for him to do. N'Keal Harry showing signs of life. And I was elated. I was elated when N'Keal Harry caught that ball. And I'm sure many of you were too. Do I think they should do it more? I don't know. If he catches them, I would love if this was something of I don't want to say a breakout game, but N'Keal Harry figuring it out a little bit today. 2 catches for 52 yards on 5 targets. I mean, they could have gone to him on that flea flicker where Mac Jones apparently missed him and tried to dump it to Jacoby Myers down low, and he missed him. And he missed him anyway. But yeah, N'Keal Harry, the jump ball, I mean, he looked pretty good on it. So, I mean, look, throwing a jump ball to N'Keal Harry, I put it this way. I'd rather you throw a jump ball to N'Keal Harry than you throw a jump ball to Nelson Agholor. I mean, I don't think that Nelson Agholor is the guy I want fighting to bring it down. I would rather throw it up to N'Keal Harry than Agholor. So, I would rather throw it up to N'Keal Harry than any wide receiver you have on this team, maybe except for Bourne. I guess it's closer, but even then, Harry profiles as a guy that's more likely to bring down a 50-50 ball than Kendrick Bourne. Rather throw it up to Harry than Jacoby Myers. I mean, one of the tight ends, I guess I'd take over Harry in that spot. But yeah, Harry always profiled as a guy who could do that. And, he did it tonight in a big spot. It looked like it was possibly a play that was going to help them win the game. So, yeah, I mean, I if they wanted to put that into the playbook more, I'd like to see more of it and see what Harry does with it, as long as it doesn't result in a turnover. Let's see what else we got. Saying about Ryan Kelly was out. Harry went up and grabbed some passes, looking like Randy Moss. Just the one. I mean, the other play was about a 9-yard reception. It was, a nice play over the middle, but I'm excited about N'Keal Harry too. I want N'Keal Harry to be good. I hope that this gets him at least in the offense more, and he can make a little bit more of an impact. But I would say cool it with the Randy Moss comparisons. Maybe I wouldn't quite compare him to Randy Moss yet, but yeah, a couple nice plays, 2 to be exact. And then Jonathan saying, love Ryan Kelly, but didn't need him today, and he will be ready Saturday against the Cardinals. And prayers to Ryan Kelly and his family if that's accurate, that what happened. It's horrible to hear that news. And from that standpoint, it's and nobody in the chat wants to lose, but I'm sure that it's a nice sentiment that the Colts were able to win for him and everything he's going through. So Mike saying kind of ironic that a great rushing game. JT did Carson in the passing game was non-existent. It's kind of funny that happened for the Colts, 2 weeks after it happened for the Patriots. But look, I mean, that's been the Colts kind of team all year. They've limited Carson Wentz to an extent. And again, he's actually done better than statistically than you would expect based on the structure of their team. But they make things easy on him. They make things easy on Carson Wentz for sure. And he's surrounded by an amazing team, really. And they're going to have to give up their first round pick to Philadelphia because they're leaving Carson Wentz in. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to do this with a number of different quarterbacks. I mean, this is a quarterback's dream, this team right now, the way they're built. Let's see. Corey saying, you were a smart dude when it comes to the overall look of the game. I appreciate that, Corey. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. We got the Colts fan Jonathan in here. Let's give the Colts fan Jonathan. He keeps throwing his comments. I don't know. I'm just going to throw them up. Hopefully it's not too bad. But the thing that gets me with Patriots fans is they still don't think they have ever cheated. Of course. I'm not going to respond to that one. Super Bowls are what matter, not getting to the playoffs. You should know that more than anyone with all those rings, KJ. Yeah, all my rings right here. I got them all on my. I got I didn't have room for the sixth one tonight, but I got my 5 rings right here. Yeah, I mean, sure, Super Bowls are what matter. Absolutely, that's the number one thing. But there's only one team that can win the Super Bowl, and a rookie quarterback has never done it. So, and after what's happened last season, a lot of Patriots fans are just going to take getting to the playoffs this year. And I'm sure, Jonathan, as a Colts fan, I'd be surprised if you weren't happy just making the playoffs this year. I really would. If you came back and said that you wouldn't be happy if the Colts made the playoffs, I'd be a little bit surprised by that. And Jacob calling out Jonathan, starting to talk a little bit in the chat. All this stuff. Jimmy J, I see you in the chat. Patriots defense did that they could. Nothing from Wentz. Taylor under 3.7 yards per carry. I don't know what you mean, Taylor under 3.7 yards per carry. Jonathan Taylor was not under 3.7 yards per carry. Jonathan Taylor was well over 3.7 yards per carry. Even if you take that 67-yard bomb out, what was he? I guess if you take the 67-yard bomb out, then he's about 3.7. But yeah, if you want to take that out, go for it. But with it, he's over 50. It's over 5 yards per carry, and he's almost at 6. So I don't know what to tell you, Jimmy J. If you want to take out that 67-yard run, you can. But then you got to take Damian Harris's run against the Bills out and give me his yards per carry, because it's that's at the end of the day, you ran for what you ran for, and you rushed as many times as you rushed, and that's what your yards per carry are. So I don't know, if you want to take it out, you can. But offense wasn't good. Finally used the tight ends, and yeah, Hunter Henry tonight. He was great. Hunter Henry with the 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, 77 yards. Not just on the touchdowns, but Hunter Henry was their best offensive weapon, and a career high, I think, now in touchdowns for Hunter Henry, with 9, I think he's up to now. So he's been a fantastic signing. Beautiful. And I know that when the Patriots beat the Chargers, when they played them in the playoffs, a lot of people wanted Hunter Henry on the team. And man, they got what they wanted. And that's been a godsend to this team, for sure. Mike saying the Harry catch was awesome. Do you think the refs in the NFL are inconsistent with these head-to-head calls? I thought that was a penalty for sure. Jacob, I actually don't know what penalty you're talking about off the top of my head. Maybe I missed it, but whatever you're pointing out there, you're gonna need to be more specific, because I forget which head-to-head call you're talking about. Unless you're talking about the catch that Harry made on the 9-yard one, maybe that was head-to-head, but I can't recall exactly. Jonathan saying I traded T.Y. Hilton for Mac Jones. Interested. Again, I don't know if this was unclear, but I'm not saying Mac Jones is a bad quarterback. I would take Mac Jones over Carson Wentz 10 times out of 10 for the next 5 years, 10 years. But yeah, I don't know where that's coming from, Jonathan. But I've been hard on Mac Jones because he had a bad game tonight. Again, does not mean he's a bad quarterback. Saying get this guy out of here. Hey, that's up to It's Gear. If It's Gear wants to ban him in the chat, It's Gear, you go for it. But hey, if Colts fans want to come in here, I can't stop them. So It's Gear's the mod right now. If It's Gear wants to ban Jonathan, that you guys take it up with It's Gear. Okay. Jimmy J saying Wentz could have thrown 3 picks. Wentz had some throws that J.C. Jackson could have picked off for sure. So I'm not going to get on J.C. Jackson too much. They still would have been tough picks, and he got knocked out of his hands a little bit. It wasn't exactly uncontested, easy interceptions, but yeah, J.C. Jackson had a few spots in there. Colts had Manning, Luck, and Rivers. Very little to show for it. So that's true. And now they have the perfect team around a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, and they can't find one. So unless Andrew Luck's coming back anytime soon. Jacob saying it sucks the Pats beat themselves. Punt block, which we haven't talked much about, and the red zone interception hurts a lot. But I'm sure Mac and the special teams will hear a lot about it at practice, and I'm sure you're right. And at the end of the day, and I know this is going to be something about people talking about the bigger picture, which I know I haven't focused on a lot tonight, and I've been critical of the team for their loss tonight. But I mean, this has been a long time coming. They were on a 7-game winning streak going into tonight, so they finally lost one game. They lost once. Like, they're allowed one loss in 8 weeks. I mean, the run they've been on is ridiculous. You're allowed to slip up every once in a while. Nobody's looking for a perfect season. And I understand the first 6 weeks play into this too. It's not like they were perfect the whole year. But, I mean, the one slip up coming against the Colts, the Colts are a good football team. Nobody's going to say the Patriots are fake contenders because they lost to the Colts. And the people that are going to say that are wrong. You lost once in 8 weeks. That's how good your team is. You're 7-1 over the last 8. You don't be worried about that. That's of course they're still a good team. And yes, Bill Belichick is going to be talking to them about that in practice. Jonathan decided to finally head out. You guys didn't welcome him. Hey, look, hope to see you in the playoffs. And look, the Colts are a good team. Jonathan won. He wanted to talk some stuff about the Colts. So hey, it is what it is, guys. It's just sports. Jonathan just wants to talk his stuff. So it is what it is. Nick saying that 5-yard penalty at the goal line was killer. That ruined the comeback. Yes, Nick, we talked about it earlier. That's on Onwenu. And people are going to talk about the Bill Belichick decision to kick the field goal there. I assume, I don't know if there was the biggest thing from the game, but it'll get brought up. But that ultimately falls back on Onwenu. If Bill Belichick decided to kick the field goal on 4th and 1 from the goal line, then we talk about it. Then that's the story of the game. But 4th and 6, how much faith do you have in your team to pick that up? 6 yards is pretty considerable, especially when you're talking about getting down near the end zone, especially that close. So, 6 yards is not much faith in the team to pick that up, especially with how things were going. So, I don't know. I'm not gonna, again, 4th and 1 way easier. 4th and 6 on the goal line, that's 3 times through the 2-point conversion would be that's a little bit too dangerous. But again, if it's 4th and 1 and Bill Belichick doesn't go for it, story of the game. And I think that was this comment I meant to bring up while I was talking about that. Mike saying good riddance, basically. And Jimmy J saying 28 for 103. What do you think is going to happen when you give a player like JD 28 times to break one? And Jimmy J, again, I guess you're not giving him the 67-yarder. Okay, you have to explain that one to Jimmy J. I don't know why, Jimmy J. I don't know why you're not giving him the 67-yarder. You have to tell me what's fake about the 67-yarder. And it's, if you want to say the Colts were what was it, that the Patriots limited Jonathan Taylor 3.7 yards per carry on every other carry. They were still getting gashed, kind of. I mean, what was it? There was the stat near the end of the game. The Colts were averaging 7.6 yards per carry on first down. That's ridiculous. I mean, you only need 2-3 yards after you do that on first down. So I don't care that his yards per carry was 3.7. The Colts were dominating on the ground. They really were. Jimmy J saying Miami won't be easy either. I thought it would be, but Miami's coming on strong. We'll see how they finish the season, but you can't get swept by Miami. If you're a Super Bowl contender, you have to at least split with Miami. I don't care how good they end up being. I don't care if they win every game until they play the Patriots. JT MVP, your defense was missing pieces tonight. I still think that Jonathan Taylor has a great MVP case, honestly. I think that he's got to be in the mix. I think it's got to be him or Brady right now with the way he's playing. I 100% think Jonathan Taylor deserves that. Jimmy J saying, I thought it was the right decision, then wrong, but ultimately the right decision. It was 20-17 in the end. I agree with you, Jimmy J. Ultimately it falls more on the defense for not stopping Jonathan Taylor there than it does on Bill Belichick for kicking the field goal. Jacob saying the same thing. I agree with the field goal, especially when our defense was starting to pick it up after the pick from DMAC. We had the momentum and Bill felt confident. I agree with 100% with what you guys are saying. I'm not going to blame Bill for kicking the field goal there. I don't think they would have picked up the 4th and 6 from the goal line, honestly. I just don't. But that's going to do it for this stream, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I have a flight to catch in literally technically 7 hours, so it's not too long, but I have to be at the airport in 3.5 because of all the holiday travel and everything like that. I guess technically not 3.5, but an hour from the airport. I got to leave at 3:30. You know how this stuff works. I got to be up at 3. It's a 2-hour through TSA, so you guys know how all this stuff works. But I hope you guys enjoy Christmas. I'm not going to see you again until after the Christmas holiday. So enjoy Christmas with your families. Be safe. I hope all you guys have a good time and, enjoy your time. And I hope everybody, stays healthy and safe. I know things are crazy right now, but just try to enjoy your time however you have to spend it. And I appreciate you guys choosing to spend time with me on these post-game streams. Again, they've been a blast this season, and I love talking to you guys in the chat about this stuff. Jimmy J saying, good job staying up and happy holidays. I appreciate that, Jimmy J. I'm going to be up. I don't know that I'm going to sleep tonight, so I got a few other things to take care of before I can head out. But yeah, I got to drive back across town and to meet up with my girlfriend and then drive to the airport. So I just hope that I can sleep on the plane. I've never slept much on the plane, but I have my fingers crossed that I will be able to fall asleep on the plane this time. I got to get some relaxing music or something like that going. And then hopefully I can stay up tomorrow to enjoy my time home and then just have a good night's sleep the following night. But thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. We'll be back next week. Honestly, I'm not sure what the plan is going to be, what the setup is going to be, because I'm not going to have my background, everything like that. So it might look a little bit different. And I don't have a fully mapped out plan as far as when it's going to be either. It might be a little bit later. I might do it, more like 30 minutes after the game, 40 minutes. All that will be ironed out eventually. I'll even go as far as I'll give you guys a heads up on YouTube on the community tab when that's happening. But the system might be a little bit different next week. Just be mindful of that. I'll try to do it. It's going to happen, and I'll try to get to it as soon as possible, but it might be a little bit later. But thank you guys, as always, again, for tuning into the stream. Coming up on an hour here, well over midnight. I got a lot of things to do. So catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in once again.